All right, I think we're gonna get started. Um, Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Corey Chang, and this presentation is on outreach and influencing others. This is gonna probably go for about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. I'm gonna talk a little about outreach that our team does and how it can help you to develop your team's outreach tradition, and then we'll open up for questions at any point, and it'll be fun. So a little bit about me. We'll go, and then I'll talk a little bit about our team and our outreach events. And then we're going to talk a little bit about just getting started, what it takes for a team, maybe who has absolutely no outreach experience at all and really wants to get involved. What do they have to do to get started? Then we're going to talk a little bit about the types of outreach events there are and kind of the level of commitment that each involves. And then going to that, establishing a schedule for your team to follow and how you want to organize your team and structure it in a way that these outreach events work around your existing schedule, maybe with your vehicle development or other events you have going on. And then from there, we kind of break it off into two different kinds of things. One is events that you might attend where you don't have to organize. Another is running your own event, which takes a little bit more work, but is also probably a little more rewarding. And then after going through those, we're going to talk a little about tools and techniques for how you present yourself and ways that you can present your team in to really make yourself the most professional and convey your message in the most effective way. We'll talk a little about long-term strategy. So after all these events this year, how do you maintain this stuff, and how do you go from here to make this a sustainable kind of a habit? And then I'll kind of go to miscellaneous tips that I have and open up the question and answer for anyone else. And if you have any questions during this presentation, send it on to my email at clc282@cornell.edu. If you're watching this as a replay, sorry, but you can still email me if you want. I'll be responding pretty much at any time. All right, let's get started. So a little bit about me. I'm a senior studying electrical and computer engineering here at Cornell. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but I go to school here in Ithaca, New York. My role on the team is our business and public relations leader, and this is my 4th year of CUV, my 2nd as business PR sub-team leader. It's really fun. This is one of probably my favorite experiences on campus, and has taught me so much about how to organize a team and how to really bring in a lot of great things to an organization. And some of the biggest things that our team does, or at least my sub-team does, is we organize outreach and giving programs for the team. So a lot of this, a lot of stuff I talked about here is really relevant to my own personal experience. And when I give examples, these are things that we do every year and challenges we've encountered. And so outreach and giving programs for the team are probably the most important things. We also maintain sponsor relations, alumni relations, and run all of our social media and publications, and all that kind of stuff. I'm excited to be giving this presentation to you guys. So first, let's give a little bit of background about the team and the outreach that we do. The main people that organize all of our outreach is the business PR team. So we're about 5 members in a total team of 40 members, and we also get a lot of help from our team leader. And so the active business PR team participates and organizes around 15 events per year, mostly done in the spring just because of the way we develop our vehicle and the way we ramp up. But all in all, we do 15 events, probably around 50 events a year. And these range from anything from just giving lab tours to conducting hands-on workshops with Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, doing craft activities kind of for different diversity hosting events, showcasing our vehicle around campus, doing all kinds of things like that. And all of our 40 members are required to attend at least one of these outreach events per semester, and it's reflected in their grade. So one of the ways that we really try to get out in the communities, have each and every one of our members be a part of our outreach program. And so whether it's doing lab tours or doing workshops where you're more engaged with your audience, we want our team members to be involved every step of the way. And so just, I guess, before we get started about how these programs work, say your team doesn't really have any experience running outreach programs at all, what do you do to get started? And so the first thing I would probably recommend is really define your team's goals and your long-term vision. So, you pretty much before you even figure out what events you want to run, you really need to assess what your team is. And so what is the purpose of your team and the events you're doing? If you are a robotics team and you are and you have a lot of people, well, what do you want to do with them? So what's the purpose of your team and the events you're doing? So in perspective of our team, I'd say, we're a robotics team, but we also want to give back and teach the community about engineering and robotics and excite them. Another thing consider is who's your intended audience. This is something I'm going to be pretty much hitting on through the entire presentation, but knowing your audience is so important in anything you do when you interact with the public. And along the same lines, who do you have access to and how do you reach them? So if you have an intended audience of maybe, you have an intended audience of elementary school students, how are you going to access them? And how are you going to reach out to them and interact with them? And then finally, through all these events, when the event's over, how do you want your audience to walk away from it and keep in their minds? And then, hopefully come back later and say, wow, I had a positive experience. So really think about how you want to leave an impression. And so after you kind of defined, what your team is, how you want to what the message and mission is that you're trying to achieve, you really want to assess, what your team has. How many people do you have? How many people do you have on your team that actually are willing to dedicate time to this? And how to expect to manage all of that. So one of the challenges our team has had is really we have all these people, but not just given development of our vehicle and the schedules of everyone. It's really hard for everyone to show up to every single event. And so how do we schedule this, and how are we kind of hold them responsible? And so you also want to consider how many resources you have. So if you want to run an event, what do you need to do it, and what kind of materials do you need, and do you have it already, or if so, if you need to buy it, what is your budget? So these are all kind of really important things to get your head going before you actually consider what kind of event you want to run. So after you've kind of considered that and kind of assessed what your team is and what you have, you can really kind of think about what kind of outreach event you want to start with. We'll kind of divide these into two categories. One is where you're attending events organized by others, and the other is probably organizing your own event. So attending an event organized by others is probably one of the easiest ways to get started in outreach. So these are events that your university may hold on campus, where, for instance, maybe it's a kind of a university-wide technology showcase where they showcase, student projects or academia research. This is a great way for your team, who does all this research by themselves day in and day out, to really get out there and show about your vehicle. And this is probably one of the easiest things to do, is really just get out there and talk about things that you know. So this is either maybe a university-wide technology event, a formal vehicle presentation of academic research, maybe going to a conference. Our team has had the opportunity to go to the AUVSI conference, and where we actually get to talk in a really formal setting with all the other industry leaders about how our vehicle works. It's almost, and it's in terms of organization-wise, aside from getting there, showing up and talking about the vehicle is probably one of the most fluid things we can do. You can also, if aside from attending showcases and things like that, you can also offer the manpower and resources your team has to maybe doing something else. So this might be, if your team, you might not be showcasing your vehicle at an event, but if maybe there's a lot of other campus tours going around, and you have a lab space that shows how engineers work and how students work together, you might want to offer up your lab space for people to come by and check it out. Alternatively, if you know of another organization that's running an event and they want help to organize it, then you can also offer your services. That's another thing that works. Or you can do something, and finally, I think you can do something entirely unrelated to AUVs. So this might be like just straight up just volunteer work. Our team does this, volunteers in a campus-wide community day of service called Into the Streets, where it has nothing to do with AV technology, but we're pretty much assigned to a local agency and help them do whatever they need to do. So this year we planted trees by one of the nature paths on campus. It was really fun, but it had nothing to do with AVs, but definitely equally as rewarding. And the second step, or the second kind of event, is organizing an event. And this, is something entirely different than just going to an event. It requires a lot more organization, a lot more planning, and a lot more resources on your own part to get it done. But it's a lot of fun. So ideas for this could be like workshops. Our team runs workshops for both the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts that come in around the area, and we run kind of different activities about engineering or robotics with them, since we are an engineering and robotics kind of team. You can kind of make a specialized vehicle showcase, and by this I mean kind of a more dedicated event where you can showcase off your vehicle and how it works. The picture you see here at the bottom is from our open pool test, where we kind of individually, but as a team, just show off our vehicles to the public. So this is not really a part of any other bigger event, but this is an event strictly about CUAUV, where we get to show it off and demo our vehicle in the pool. You can also kind of offer consulting services, I'll call it, where if your team has a lot of experience building AUVs, or of maybe other robotics teams that are just trying to get started, you can offer up kind of all your knowledge and kind of have a one-on-one meeting with them and figure out how you can help develop the vehicle and show you, and kind of like this, where we're offering up some of our knowledge and helping out other people in the community. And again, something entirely unrelated to AVs is always an option. You can plan a volunteer effort anywhere. So after all this, and you kind of thought about the kind of variety of events that you want to bring into your team, you want to start thinking about how you want to schedule and organize it all. So if you have a lot of great ideas and think, our team is going to be out there every single week doing something fantastic for the community, it might not be as realistic as you think. You really want to consider and frame the events in the context of all the other things that's going on. So this is in parallel to developing your vehicle, which is probably your number one priority. This is in parallel with all your classwork, things like that. And you want to consider how much time all these events take, in terms of planning, resources, and training for these events. It might not be as easy as you think to just back to back schedule everything. So one thing we do, our team does, is we have a kind of a schedule. We kind of make a schedule on a team wiki, and so we have kind of sign-up sheets on all of our events and make sure we spread them out in a way that works well for all of our team, where no one is too burdened at one time to feel like they have to go to everything. And so you sign up, there's a time and date, there's different sign-up slots for every person, and tells you really what the materials you need to do, what the materials are, what you need to do with the event, and just a little bit of, it just kind of gives them a little bit of an introduction on what the event does, and more details come later once we get closer to the event. So questions for your team are really how to schedule your events, how are you going to schedule your events, how are you going to hold them responsible for attending, and how do you deal with things like no-shows, or people that are usually or flaky or might not always want to go to things, or people with bad attitudes. And also, do you need someone with certain skills to be there? For instance, some of the stuff that we do is we demo our vehicle and have it kind of recognize objects and use its software to say what object it sees. And if we don't have someone on our software team there, it's a little more difficult to set up. So think about really your overall schedule and how it puts and the kind of load balancing around your team. It's important that people don't get burned out, or you overcommit yourself. All those things are very bad. So just talking a little quickly about attending events. As I said before, this is probably a great way to get started in outreach and just really get a way to show your face around the community without having to do a lot of overhead planning and taking up a lot of your own resources. The picture you see here is from the AVSI conference last year. But as I said before, one of the most important things to do when you go to these events is know your audience. You need to understand who your audience is and how you can tell your language to them so they understand what you're talking about at all. If your audience is professors and people in academia, you can probably scale the language a little bit and talk a little bit more specifically about the technical details of your vehicle. But if your audience is elementary schoolers or maybe primary education teachers, you might want to explain things to them in ways that are a little more understandable for someone who has no knowledge in any of this kind of stuff. So one of the things you probably need to know is the number of attendees coming from your team to the event, and the time commitment of it, and if it's a long time commitment, how many people are you going to need, and do you need to, for instance, maybe bring in people in shifts if the time is too long. Some things we do for full day events is we have maybe, and they require 3 people there, is we'll have 3 groups of 3, and they'll come in for every few hours and switch out, and it works well. Make sure you have all the materials required to convey your message. If this is a vehicle showcase, this might mean bringing in, as you see in the picture, bringing in a banner, bringing in a laptop display to show maybe some of your vehicle demos, bringing in sample boards, bringing in your markers, bringing things that people can see and feel and understand in a little more concrete way, just to make that message a little more powerful. Understand what the attire and behavior is. Some events are a little bit more relaxed. Some of them, it's kind of like a very casual kind of meander around. Everyone's just there to ask questions and learn. And maybe the team members don't have to wear anything besides, their team uniform or in jeans. Or it might be kind of more formal event, kind of like a conference where, you're expected to wear something a little bit better. People are going to ask you a little more questions and expect you to have the answer for. Understand what the expectations are, in the environment of the event. You should probably know what scheduled events are. What's happening. Are you just going to be tabling? Are you going to be giving a formal presentation? Are you going to be doing something else? And are you going to be doing something entirely different? Know what that is and understand the expectations of your organizers. And then for all this stuff, you really need to communicate clearly with your team and convey all this information early. For people that this means, do everything from setting up the sign-up sheet early to having your team commit to all these things early, and understanding if you don't have all the answers to if you don't have all the answers to the event, then find out how to get those answers and establish all this stuff early, so you don't have to fumble around day of and have things go wrong. So attending events is really one of the better ways to get started. We do probably a little more than half of the events that we do over the year are other people's events, and it's a fantastic way to kind of not only just us for us to be out there in a pretty low-key setting, but also it's a great way for us to meet other people. So running an event is pretty much an entirely different story. It requires a lot more work, and I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit more detail and kind of hit some of the main points about things you need to think about. So first of all, is to kind of establish a point person and figure out who's going to be taking charge of organizing this thing. One thing we try to do is have one person on our business PR team take charge of a given event every year. And it really is a great experience for them to get all the skills of organizing in a kind of a large scale event, but it's also kind of nice because then there's someone that knows all the ins and outs of the event, and this information isn't kind of really scattered all over the team. So kind of establish a point person, and from there you can work together to do the rest of this. And again, understand your audience. If you're going to be running an event that involves you demoing a vehicle, make sure you frame it in an understandable way. If you're going to be doing maybe, like, for instance, you see here in our picture, we're running a balloon-powered boats event where we have kind of prospective students come in and build and race balloon-powered boats. So they use kind of household supplies and balloons to propel whatever they make across the water. And so, this is a great event, not just for, little kids, but people, like people late, like in their last years of high school. This is a great way for them to kind of exercise, all their science knowledge. So if you understand your intended audience, you can kind of frame these challenges or your activities or all your information in a kind of an appropriate way. And then define a goal for the event. So what do people want to walk away from and remember? For our balloon powered boats event, we really want them to walk away with the message that engineering is fun and there's no one right answer, but you also get, it's a lot of trial and error in terms of testing your boat or seeing it fail. And we also want to kind of, it's kind of an admissions event, so we also want to kind of promote Cornell and the engineering program. So those are all the messages we want to leave with our attendees. So next, we really want to determine the requirements for our volunteers. Really, how many do you think you'll need for the scope of the project? What time of day will be needed, and what they'll be expected to do. You really want to also consider how much, if any sort of training is required, how much training do you think they'll need, and when you're going to do that, and how you're going to do that. So kind of onboarding all of your volunteers is probably one of the more important things, just so they feel like they're part of the event and not just thrown into it without any information. And another thing to consider is what spaces are you going to be using? Are you going to be using your own lab space? Are you going to be using a classroom? So figure this out pretty early so you can reserve a room if you need to on campus or anywhere else you're planning on being. And if you're going to be moving from place to place, how you be doing that. One of the things we do for some of our events is we hold different activities. If we're running a workshop, we run different activities in different rooms. And so our university has a kind of room reservation program, but you have to reschedule probably 3 or 4 weeks in advance. And so we do that very early in the year after we establish a date. And we always establish a schedule where we move people from place to place, in maybe half an hour time increments or an hour time increments, depending on how many activities we have. So that's always something we consider is space, and you don't want to be left without any space just because you reserve something too late. So then after that, you can really start detailing out all the materials you need to do what you plan on doing. You want to be specific and find out, what you need to still get and what you have. So one of the things that we like to reuse are things like, of course, our vehicle. We usually try to bring everywhere just because it's the thing we work on and it's something that people get excited about. But we also bring in a lot of our. We have 2 like standing banners that we reuse, and they're fantastic and kind of setting up our presentation, framing our whole setup, and those are really powerful. And they cost a little bit up front, but afterwards they're really neat, and we like to use them a lot. One of the things you really need to think about here is your budget. And so if you're thinking about running a really full-scale event where you have people come in, you might give them maybe like a little kind of like a goodie bag or a little knick-knack at the end. You want to think about how much that's going to cost, and can you afford it, and how you're going to get that done. You want to make sure that you allot time for purchasing, ordering, and all these things. And then you can take all your materials and then kind of hash out a detailed schedule of events for the day of your event. And so that kind of includes, how long, if you're kind of doing a kind of an agenda with different points, how long, each of those sections should take, what materials need each of those steps, and who you're going to have on that, who in terms of members on your team will be at that section. Also consider, do they need to break for lunch, and have you allotted time and space for that? So if you need a separate room to eat lunch or a meal, make sure you account for that. And kind of last few steps here is relay the information you need to your teammates. This is so key in making sure that everyone's on the same page. People should have an idea about what's going on and have an idea of what their responsibility is going to the event. If they don't have a clear event, then really a lot of the cohesion and identity of the event kind of falls apart. So relaying the information early and really clearly is critical. And then just a tip is to act professional all the time. A lot of the visitors that may come to your event, whether it's other students on campus or visitors from outside of campus, just make sure that you treat them, with courtesy, and because you really are, the customer, quote unquote, customer facing part of your team, and you represent not only your team but also your school. So here's just some quick tips for how you present yourself and how you kind of put yourself in the best light. So I'm going to say it again. Know your audience and really tell your language. That is so important. In the bottom picture here, you see that we're giving a presentation to a middle school robotics team that came in to visit our lab, and where we gave some tips about how the best ways to build their Lego robot. And so we gave a quick presentation, and we made sure that we tailored all of our technical stuff and all of our other language, just to appropriate to a middle schooler. And so that was really exciting. So know your audience. And if you're using your vehicle to demonstrate something, really consider some kind of go-to demonstrations that your vehicle can do. For instance, ours is like the object recognition and speech thing, and that's always really fun because it's something very tangible for the people to see, and like people can say, oh, I see an object, and in my mind I recognize that as like for instance, if it's a hammer, it's like, oh, that's a hammer, and so we can simulate that same exact thing on the vehicle, and so there's kind of that immediate connection with what this robot can do. Also think about bringing in different props and tangibles that the audience can interact with. In our case, that is like markers and torpedoes and other things like that kind of bring the competition and all of its elements to an understandable form to our audience. And so then, for pretty much all your team members, if they're going to be ready to talk about the team, make sure that they have a couple main points about their team ready to go. There's many times where I might not be running an official event, but I'd be in the lab and a tour group will come by and ask me about the team. And while I don't work on anything technical on the team, I can still talk about it. Just using a couple main points about the number of people on our team, the competition, the timeline of development of our vehicle, things like that people can really understand. And along the same lines, just being ready for anything is to look good. Wearing your team uniforms and apparel goes a really long way in influencing your presentation. So we usually, pretty much all of our outreach events, we wear our team uniforms, whether it's a team polo or our sweatshirts. We make sure that we all have something on our team to identify us, and it really makes the event kind of seem a little more legit and kind of brings a lot more cohesion to the whole day. Along the same lines is kind of establishing a brand. So as you can see here, even on our presentation here, we had the same template for all of our webinars. We kind of use the same kind of feel with all of our other publications, our website, social media, all of our posters. And so we kind of bring that feel all around, and that brings, again, kind of the identity to our team. Visitors that come by and that maybe might come by an event more than once a year, or on repeat years, will recognize our team, and I think that's a powerful statement. Finally, if you're presenting your team, interacting with the public, and you're asked a question you don't know the answer to, definitely admit it. And because I think if you lie to them, then that's probably the worst you can do. But if you know the answer to something, admit it. But find someone on your team that might know. If you're, for instance, if someone asked me a very detailed question about how our team makes our electrical boards, I probably couldn't answer it. And I would probably have to refer to someone that's there and have an electrical team member ask it. So after all this stuff, after you've planned your event, executed it, everything went perfectly, you want to start thinking about the long-term strategy of your team. And this is really just the idea, the concept of establishing kind of year after year events that people can recognize. So establishing a tradition of outreach really takes work, but can be extremely rewarding. One of the things that having really a habit and a routine of outreach is that you can always improve on events or on all these practices by doing this year after year. So our team has been able to do this and really grow a lot of our events just because of the way we've been able to do it for so long. And that's been really beneficial to building a relationship with the community. So one of the best tips I can give is probably save the names of important contacts that you reach out to as you start developing your event. These might be anybody from, if we're bringing in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, these are names of the troop leaders. These are names of parents that really enjoyed the event. And make an effort to reach out to them outside the event, just to give them updates about your team. Maybe if your team makes like newsletters, updates, or a Facebook page events, invite them along, because the more you keep incorporating them into your kind of daily updates, the more they'll feel invested into it, and come next year they'll probably want to come back. And the same lines is really leave a lasting impression on your audience, so all these events get bigger. One of the things we try to do is we really try to leave we leave all of our events with a really positive attitude. And so, for instance, for our Girl Scouts workshops where we collaborate with the Society of Women Engineers, we usually have like a final culminating lessons learned kind of question and answer where we have the Girl Scouts tell us what they learned and what they thought was fun, and we leave them again with a little bit of like we leave them with usually like a giveaway. So we gave them like notebooks with our logo on it and things like that. So they come away and really remember our team and the time they had with our team, and really feel like they learned a lot. One thing that's really helpful is get feedback from your events. And so this might be in really any form. You can either have kind of maybe a survey at the end of your event where you ask the attendees to talk about what they liked and didn't like, or there may be follow-up emails with some of your main points of contact and asking them what they liked and didn't like. All this stuff is extremely powerful to making your event better, because most of the time you really don't know what you did well and what you didn't do well. And finally, document all your procedures well. This is so crucial in maintaining that pipeline of information, and making sure that someone that might not be on the team this year can leave the event in the hands of someone else who can pick it up and follow all the directions and execute it just as well as we did this previous year. And so one thing we do this in our semester reports. You can see here we have some documentations for one of our open pool tests, and this is so critical. And again, in this continuous improvement and make sure that we make something better every year. And so here again is going to be another just scatter of more tips that I was thinking of when I was making this presentation. Again, communication is key. If you don't know what's happening, ask way before it's way too late, because you don't want to be doing something the day of and have no idea what's going on. It's happened many times to our team, and we really make sure that we communicate all this stuff early and start planning early. A lot of the attendees, whether it's people from the public or teams of other teams, these people need time to make things happen. Whether it's doing things on their end to get all their participants ready, it's really important that you give them the time and channel communication necessary to do all this stuff and on an appropriate timeline. Another thing, if you're on a budget, one thing to consider is finding a corporate sponsor who might help subsidize costs of equipment or food if you're having food. One thing we do is we try to find a sponsor for some of our bigger events, just because not only gets kind of the sponsorship some face time on running events or kind of feeling like they're doing outreach as well, but it's also great for us because we can save some of our resources for future events. Another good idea is to collaborate with other campus groups to run events together. We run one of our biggest events, our Junior Girl Scouts workshop, where we bring in probably close to 100 Girl Scouts and run kind of different science-related events with them, science-related activities with them. We collaborate with the Society of Women Engineers, and having our 5 visiting members and also the leadership of our SWE chapter, we can really put together a really great event. And so we not only help run the events and organize it, but we also offer up our lab space and our vehicles so the troops can come by and see it. And if you're holding a public event, make sure you publicize well. I didn't really touch on this that much in the presentation, but advertising is pretty key in getting people to come to your event if it's a public event. This includes everything from quarter cards, posters, Facebook events, email mailing lists, advertising your event on lecture slides in engineering courses. Anything you can do to get your message out there is always important to getting people to show up. And then during the day of the event, make sure you can capture the moment with photos or videos. If you have someone on your team with a nice camera, tell them bring it in and take pictures and upload it to maybe your website or your Facebook page. these are always really good memories. And at times we've asked the local newspaper or the campus newspaper to come in and do a story about some of our bigger events. And finally, make it fun. This event should be fun for both your team, but also most importantly for the people you're interacting with. I really want to do something good for the community, then it should be something fun and something you feel reporting about after the event. And so, even so, for your team, events outside the normal environment of the rigor of designing and making a vehicle is really fun for bringing your team together. We enjoy that a lot. Let's see. So we'll see if we have any questions. I don't think we do. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can email me on the bottom here at clc282@cornell.edu. I'm pretty responsive to email and I'm trying to answer your question as best as I can. But otherwise, this is the end of my presentation. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks so much for your time.